sit maybe here, different position than we're sitting in earlier. I don't recall seeing the saddle bull here earlier. Very pretty stork. One interesting thing I want to point out is that these Nkuhumas are here where that Styx female was enticing and rejecting that Matimba male. He was trying to mate with her there just not too long ago, only a few days ago. Just quite interesting that we're in the same place. The other saddle bull's just a rock. No, it's a heron. Lion, one of the lion watching the heron arrive. Two, now both I think sub-adults sitting up watching the heron arrive. Not that they're going to do anything, I don't think, but maybe just interested in seeing what development has taken place. The fact that they are here and they haven't gone back to wherever it was that they killed the buffalo tells me that that whole carcass, that is all finished, that they are not planning on going back there. There must have been some altercation with a hyena this morning, because a hyena was seen taking away a leg of the buffalo, which would have been one of the remains of the buffalo that evidently they killed. And I still haven't been able to get a clear answer as to where the car, I don't think anybody's really found where it was, but we can see by their bulging tummies that they've had their full. Now even if they'd had their full and there was still something left to feed on, they would have come to the water and gone back to the carcass and probably slept at the carcass to ward off vultures and other scavengers and keep it for the time when they're going to maybe wake up and get hungry again. So my guess is that they're going to probably wake up and start moving back towards the core of their territory, which is a little bit further north. But that could be any time between now and 6 o'clock in the morning, which is about nearly 12 hours time. There's no telling how long it could take. Could be in 5 minutes, could be in 5 hours. But I'd like to be here to see if it happens in the time that we're here before the end of drive, because it is cooling down and they might start getting a little active. Oh, you missed, Heron. That's the female saddle bull that's here, and I'm sure it's the same saddle bull pair that we've seen at Nkuhuma Waterhole or Gowrie Dam. We've seen them at Buffelshoek Dam as well. Pretty sure it's the same saddle bulls. They're quite an endangered species, and there you go, look at that, stork and a heron. Yeah, Mark here, you're welcome to join. A stork and a heron. David. Affirmative, space for one. Yeah, you're welcome, Alan. Mark here, WildEarth. David in New Mexico was asking, sorry about that, by the way, since I'm here, I've got to keep the other radio open, and I have to every now and then answer to people who might want to come and view it, and there's also a good chance that maybe others will want to come and see them, and we might have to make a space or make way for another vehicle. Look at this child, so full, can barely walk.
Height of laziness.
Look at that, I can't believe that belly. The young male is so fat and so full, he's not even getting up to urinate. He's just, I'll just do it here, wet my bed. At least we get to see that his kidneys are working fine. That is a little bit comical and a big sigh. But that is also quite typical, really. Sorry, David, I get distracted. As you know, it's easy to get distracted out here. David was asking about saddle bull storks, about their feeding habits. Well, I don't know if David, if you meant the saddle bull or storks in general, but yes, they feed on fish and amphibians, fish and frogs, and anything aquatic they can get their beak into. But they do feed on land creatures too, reptiles, and sometimes small mammals. But saddle bull storks are predominantly aquatic feeders. They predominantly feed on aquatic life as opposed to, say, some of the other storks that might move through the grassland. I know marabous are a type of stork that are maybe going to feed on things out in the grassland as well as scavenge. Now the saddle bull stork is not going to be scavenging, but different storks do have different feeding patterns and different feeding. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, in a form.
You know I'm famous.
Who are you again?
I'm the electric bushel champion.
In backgammon.
I'll challenge you. Challenge.
Oh, really? If you win, you can come on TV. If you win, I'll put the camera on you.
I'll put the camera on you.
After I win, you'll put me on TV. If you win. There's no such thing as that. It's a mean game. It's a really mean game. Oh, that's what he said.
Sorry about the banter, folks, but it's all in good fun.
You know where the big males are?
Well, they were here just a few days ago mating with one of the Styx females and went further south. And I don't know where they've been since.
What is the territory that you can traverse?
Here on Gowrie and Arathusa Safari.
Can't go up to Buffalo. Who's famous, you guys?
A question coming in from Texas from Julia. Hello, Julia. Wanting to know the difference between a male and female saddle bull stork. One of the easiest differences between the two is looking at the eye, and it's probably hard for us to zoom in on the eye from this darker eye. If you were to see them from the front, you'd see the brood patch, which is a patch of skin on the breast. But easy enough for me to have seen with my binoculars, to be able to have seen her yellow eye. I'm broadcasting at the moment. I can't answer that at the moment. Billy Joe in Florida wants to know if these two, the heron and the stork, would fight over something. Most definitely. I've seen storks, herons and fish eagles fight over fish, and it is a big competitive world out here, and it's all got to do with size and dominance. And I think if the heron caught something, the stork would probably try and mob it and try and intimidate it. But sorry, Brian, we've got a beautiful thing happening with lion paws here, that we can change from stork to this incredible interaction between the two. Patty cake, patty cake. This tells me that they're starting to wake up, they're starting to get a little bit active, maybe a little bit playful. I'll copy you now. The last I saw, they were heading from Philemon's Cutline up Rebecca's Road towards Zoe's. And then hyena den is very active. It's good luck, good fun there. So that's the hyena den at Philemon's Dip. I get to see the saddle bull's hunting tactic right now, walking around the edges, and by disturbing, you can actually see some of the fish jumping just ahead of it. They stir up the sediment and try and chase things. The water is not very visible, the visibility isn't great, so it's mostly working on ripples and... Oh. Clearly trying to chase things into the shadows. It's not a very precise manner of hunting. It's sort of height of extreme optimism, if anything. Stabbing the water, it's going to eventually get something. A lot of fish fleeing from it. You often get different birds together. Things like storks, pelicans, and spoonbills. Oh, speak of the devil, who have we got that's just flown in? Hardy-dars. 2 hardy-dars that have just landed behind the stork. They have different feeding methods, and one bird's feeding might enhance the other bird's chances of catching, so they tend to sometimes feed together. The heron has got a different tactic entirely. Heron tends to stand still and ambush, as opposed to the stork that's actively chasing things. Might even benefit the heron. Heron's just keeping that big beak of the stork on the opposite side of the stork. Almost like she's tickling the youngster. To drink or not to drink? The chance to sleep. The water was too far away. It looked like it was contemplating going for a drink, and too full, water's too far.
You find it's mainly overseas because
Question from Maryland, from Barbara, wanting to know what the circumstances would be for this pride to split up. Very difficult. No way of knowing, Barbara. A complete overhaul of coalition males and male dominance in the territory that would maybe result in some cats being hunted by new coalitions or new males coming in would probably be one of the only things that would maybe cause a major disruption. But even if they were temporarily split up, I think the cohesiveness of a pride like this is so strong that no matter how much they were pushed apart, they would vocalize and they would get together again in no time. They are a pride after all, and related. I couldn't imagine anything that would really split them up permanently, other than death. It's going to be an interesting thing looking for these storks over the next few days, because I'm quite keen to see where the male stork is. They're normally quite a tight-knit couple. Unlike the heron will spend a day on its own feeding, but the storks generally spend time together wherever they go. Unless they're sharing parental responsibilities at the moment, and that is also a possibility going into sort of breeding time for them. Unfortunately, don't know where the nest is. I think it's further north up on Buffelshoek, because it seems to be that's where they come in from every day, and there's a good possibility that he's been looking after things back home while she's been out catching frogs and fish. Need to talk to some of the guys that gone to Buffelshoek to see if they know any further. Ellen in Arkansas, nice to hear from you, Ellen, and a very good observation from Ellen, thinking that earlier on the stork was actually following the heron, and very much so, taking advantage of the fact that maybe the heron would chase something into the path of the stork, and it is very much a tactic of other storks, so that doesn't need a stretch of the imagination to think that this stork would do the same thing, and maybe hoping that the heron would be moving around a little bit more. It's just not really in the nature of the heron to walk around hunting. Heron tends to stand still and try and spear things that come close to it. But whatever movement the heron makes is always going to be an advantage to the stork, who does move around a lot more. Something moving away from the heron, right into the beak of the stork. Bless you. Heron's thinking, if I don't move, you don't see me. But still intimidated by the stork. What is that?
What is
Ghost elephant.
in the visitor's book?
Never heard of it. Too much gin?
Yeah, exactly what it is. I think it's somebody was talking.
No, I've never heard of.
No, we have never either. So we thought we would just.
There's a lovely book written by Al Watson called Elephantums. Indians that have been, and that their being, their essence, like in the parts of the Knysna forest and Tsitsikamma, where you can almost imagine elephants having roamed once and maybe seeing places where elephants have been and still feeling their presence. But I doubt that.
Got anything to do with it.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay.
So now it's
Have a lovely evening. Bye bye. Cardinal about the stork's legs. Length of the stork's legs. Cardinal sent a tweet I'm guessing they're probably about 2 feet. I'm guessing where that joint is, that kind of more like an ankle joint rather than a knee joint. I'm guessing that each section of the stork's legs are about 2 feet long. And then there was a question on the heron. I don't know. Chris, I bet it is Chris in California, because you get the great blue. I used to see great blue heron in California when I was there, so it's possibly Chris in California. The difference in size between the grey heron and the great blue, I'm guessing, Chris, that it's about the same size. I think they're more or less the same size. Also, I just want to mention that I was having a bit of a chat with the vehicle. There were landowners next to us. They're really wonderful folks, and answering some of their questions too where I could. I didn't want to detract from our experience talking to you out there, but it is courteous for me to make conversation and keep good relations. But they are great people, so it was nice to chat to them. Landowners that are here probably because it's school holidays or long weekends. We're going into, I think, Freedom Day coming up soon. Used to be Workers' Day. Am I right?
I have no idea.
First to me.
I never know when public holidays are.
Yeah. But every now and then they decide to make a new one.
Yeah.
I remember, Chris, I remember seeing the great blue herons and egrets and a whole lot of birds at a wonderful brewery and bird sanctuary on the Monterey Bay area, right inside the bay, called Elkhorn Slough, very close to what's it, some landing. There's some fishery, that something landing. Can't think of it now, but it's the Elkhorn Slough was a beautiful place to see great blues and barn owls and all sorts of wonderful west coast birds. Used to spend a lot of time there. Clancy, nice to hear from you, Clancy. Clancy's in Ohio, wanting to know if we get any kind of crayfish in these freshwater pans. Not really. When I say not really, Clancy, because we don't have crawfish, crayfish, freshwater crayfish. We do have freshwater crabs that occur, but the other crustacean that does occur is very, very tiny little shrimp known as a fairy shrimp, and they can hardly be called crayfish, and they can hardly be of any commercial value other than maybe fish food. I think Clancy's about the same age as me. Go back to the 70s and the Marvel DC comics. At the back of the comics there used to be this ad for sea monkeys, and you get these dried eggs and you put them in water and they would hatch into these wonderful little creatures but the pictures on the back of the comics were that they had almost anthropomorphic features and anthropomorphic kind of actions, and you could build little castles for them, and of course that was just a gimmick to sell them. But ultimately those very creatures are fairy shrimp, a very, very tiny type of crustacean that lives in these waters. It has a very, very fast metabolism, so that when the rains come in the water, and they can lay eggs before the pans dry up. And to my knowledge, only females exist, and they're one of these creatures that has perfected the art of virgin birth, of being able to lay eggs with being fertilized by a male, the process that we call parthenogenesis. And very interesting little creatures, kind of like freshwater plankton in a way. Well, it's interesting to see the life that carries on regardless of the fact that there is a pride lion rolling around and trying to digest the remains of a buffalo, what we call a carpet of cats or flat cats. There we go, somebody's getting up to go lie down again maybe. They're uncomfortable, they're so full that they will constantly change position until such time as it is time to move along. She's heading probably up towards the road. Hello, John. A great question coming from John in Cape Town. Nice to hear from you, John. And great to hear from Cape Town, our mother city. Very pretty city. We're talking about that male that's just flopped his head down. John was saying, looks like he's got quite a considerable mane on him. At what age is he going to be ousted and forced to go out and form his own coalition? It's probably going to happen soon, John. I'm guessing he's probably in the region about 3, going on 3.5 now, or nearly, or thereabouts. And by the time he's 4, he's probably not going to be tolerated. And he's going to have to be bounced around, or he's going to have to go pretty far to find an area, because there are so many coalitions of males around here. It's going to be very interesting to see what is going to transpire with this young male, because he can't wander south. He can't wander to the west. Right, to the south, he's got other to the west there is the Majingilans, there are the Birmingham boys, there are the Salati males, there are the Matimbas, I'm guessing, on his father's up this way. Maybe he could go to the east and into Kruger and hook up with some other males there, but it's going to be quite a difficult task for him to escape the attentions of the existing coalitions of males up here in this part of the Sabi Sand. And whilst I would love to give you an exact answer, or even the makings of an answer, unfortunately there are so many factors involved, or rather factors that have to be taken into account in this part of the world, based on so many other coalitions and based on the line dynamics that occur here right now. Moss Landing. Thanks, Gene, in Los Angeles. That's right, it was Moss Landing, just on the coast of Elkhorn Slough in Monterey, or just off of Monterey, just south of Aptos, just north of Monterey itself. She's going to drink a little. Being reminded by Final Control to mention Happy Earth Day. We kind of missed Earth Hour last month for some reason, I guess because we forget what day it is here sometimes, and I was hoping to lead up to Earth Hour last month and we missed it, but evidently it's Earth Day today, so Happy Earth Day. And also just a greeting to young Heron, who's 8 years old and homesick from school. Heron, I hope you're going to feel better. And I hope you don't miss too much school, but I hope you do feel better, Heron. 8 years old in, was it Kansas City? Missouri. Pride of cats at our feet and a lovely peaceful evening. That's a lovely way to wrap up the day. We've had a fantastic day here at Nkuhuma Game Reserve, and I want to thank all of you for joining us, especially for the interaction that we have. Most of what we do is enhanced so much by the interaction with you, the viewers, and the questions that you send in. It's really wonderful to be able to do that. I'm hoping that we're going to be able to find these cats again tomorrow. There's no telling how far they might decide to move, but we'll certainly pick up on their tracks. My guess is that they're going to be heading back north, because that is the bulk of their territory further north of us, and anything else that might be able to pop up their head. My name is Mark. Brian, thank you very much for being on camera this afternoon, and Thumb has been very appropriately dressed this evening too, from Tara back in final control. All of us here at WildEarth, I love you lots, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.